In this video, we'll take a look at pivot table grand totals and how they're created and the changes that you can make to the headings. This is Debra Dalgleish from Contextures.com. To see how grand totals work, I'm going to start with a blank pivot table, and here's the pivot table field list where I can see all the fields that are in my data. So I'd like to see how much we sold in each city. So I'll check that. It goes into the rows area. We can see the row headings here. And then I'll see the quantity. So as soon as I check that, it goes into values. And now it shows up in the pivot table. And because we have rows and a value, we get a grand total. If I add a column field, I'm going to put year, and I'll drag that into columns. So now we have headings across the top of the columns here, and Excel created a grand total for the columns. So now we have the two grand totals for our rows and our columns. We can change the text for these grand total headings. So I can click on the column or the row. And then to change the text, I can just start typing if I want to change the whole thing, or I can click up in the formula bar and just maybe take out the grand and the space so I have a shorter heading. So I'm going to press enter, and as soon as I change the row grand total, the column grand total also changes. So you can change them, but you can't change them individually. They'll both be the same. I'm going to undo that, just to go back to our grand total. This pivot table just has one value field. We just have quantity. If I add another value, so I'll put in the sale price. So now we get a pivot table that's much wider. And at the far right, instead of grand total, we have total sum of quantity and total sum of sale price. The row total hasn't changed. And if we look at our pivot table field list, because we have multiple value fields, it creates this button for a field called values. And right now it's in the columns, so that's where these total sums are appearing. If I drag those values into the rows area, now we can see sum of quantity and sum of sale price here, and the totals. And the column grand total has changed back to grand total. So wherever this values button is where you're going to see the total and then the field name. I'm going to hide a couple of the cities, so our list is a little shorter here. And if I try to change one of these headings, I'm going to just try and type total here. As soon as I start typing, Excel gives me a warning that I cannot edit subtotal, block total, or grand total names. So we can't edit these cells. But if we still see grand total, we can change that. So I'll get rid of that grand again. So we can change the grand total heading, but we can't change the headings where the values field is, where it says total and the sum of the field name. For more Excel tips and tutorials, and to download the sample file for this video, please visit my Contextures website at www.contextures.com.